In this lecture, I'm going to talk about two chapters. Chapter 3, which is child marriage, and chapter 4, which is called playing the husband. So these two chapters are going to be the topic of today's lecture. So straight away, I'm going to start with the excerpts, and we'll first look at the incidents, and then we will see what can be deduced from the incidents themselves. So the first excerpt is already very revealing. Let's see what it says. Much as I wish that I had not to write this chapter, right? So this is how it begins. So the very first line goes, much as I wish that I had not to write this chapter. So as you can already guess, this is a chapter which was not very easy for Gandhi to write, right? And the reasons for the difficulty which he encountered in writing this chapter is that it contains several experiences which, looking back, he does not really want to remember. But we also have to keep in mind that at the introductory chapter, Gandhi has already said that he is not writing this text to prove that he is a great man. He is going to narrate his experiments with truth. And if some of the experiments with truth are not very pleasant to the ears, and surely not very pleasant for him to memorate, even then he is going to mention those incidents, right? So here goes, there are certain incidents, certainly in chapter 3, child marriage, and also in chapter 4, playing the husband. They are related. In fact, chapter 3 segues into chapter 4, and hence my decision to combine these two chapters for today's lecture. So overall, we are going to look at some incidents in these two chapters which Gandhi is not very fond of looking back. When he remembers, when he reminisces about these incidents, he does not you know he does not remember them very fondly, right? These are memories he would rather not have. But given his commitment to write an autobiography where he does not hide any untoward truth, he mentions such incidents nonetheless. So let's begin with the first excerpt. Much as I wish that I had not to write this chapter, I know that I shall have to swallow many such bitter draughts in the course of this narrative, right? So again, to go back to what he said in the introductory chapter, there will be incidents which I would rather not have experienced in my life, but nonetheless I am going to have to swallow many similar bitter draughts nonetheless while I write this book. And he says, I cannot do otherwise. If I claim to be a worshipper of truth, it is my painful duty to have to record here my marriage at the age of 13. Right? So, you know that child marriage 120, 130 years ago was still quite common. But then, why do you think M.K. Gandhi does not, have a very, why does he have a distasteful memory of this incident of him being married off as a child at the age of 13? He calls it a painful duty to record that he was married off at the age of 13, right? The reason is given in the next excerpt. And remember, this is going to be one of the core questions of Gandhi's autobiography, that is centered around his child marriage and the moral argument about child marriage. So Gandhi says, he answers why this is such a difficult experience for him to write. And nonetheless, since he has decided that he is going to, as a worshipper of truth, he has decided that he is not going to hide any untoward incident, any incident that he retroactively would rather not have remembered or would have not have performed as he did back then, he will nonetheless mention them. So the reason is mentioned in the second excerpt. He says, I can see no moral argument in support of such a preposterously early marriage. Right? So the bottom line is that Gandhi was married off at the age of 13, and now that he looks back at those days when his marriage took place, he says that I see no moral argument in support of such an early marriage. Right? So child marriage is utter nonsense. That is what he's saying, right? I'm using much harder words, much coarse words. Gandhi is obviously not using as hard words, but looking from our point of view, 130 or 40 years after he wrote it, we live in a society where I will not say that we have completely eradicated all social evils, but child marriage as a thing has significantly decreased, right? And it's for the good of everyone. So Gandhi, as you can clearly see, and this gives away one of his principles in his life. He has again and again said he is a worshipper of truth, and he has also said in the beginning that to him, truth is not one isolated concept. Truth is an umbrella term. If you remember, I had mentioned this phrasing, umbrella term or parasol, under which many other virtues are contained: kindness, loyalty, right, faithfulness. All of these things are included in the larger umbrella term of truth. So as a worshipper of truth, he sees no moral argument in support of such an early marriage. Now, he goes on to say the elders decided to marry my second brother, who was 2 or 3 years my senior, a cousin, possibly a year older, and me, all at the same time. In doing so, there was no thought of our welfare, much less our wishes. It was purely a question of their own convenience and economy. Remember, in the last chapter itself, Gandhi had said that I never questioned my elders, right? And then at that moment, when I read those lines to you, I had also said that soon you are going to see that Gandhi will criticize these same elders. So, retrospectively, when he looks back upon these incidents, he sees and thinks that certain things could have been done in a better way, and his elders could certainly have, you know, thought and acted better in certain situations, and child marriage is one of those scenarios where he wishes his parents had done better. And overall, he strongly argues against uh, such a preposterously early marriage, right? And look at the reasons here. The elders had decided that his second brother, 2 or 3 years older than him, another cousin, and he, all three would be married at the same time. And there was no thought of welfare of the children here, right? No one asked the children. And remember, these are men. All of these three boys, obviously, they are men, they're boys, and as far as girls are concerned, the scenario was certainly even more difficult. Three boys are not being given a choice. So you can surely imagine how much less the choice would have been in the case of girls, right? So overall, it is not very difficult to see why Gandhi would be vehemently against such a preposterously early marriage, to use his own words. So then, why was this done? If the children's wishes were ignored, if the parents did not even consider the children's welfare, right? It was done because it was a question of the elders' convenience and economy, right? Now we are going to delve deeper into this incident. So Gandhi continues. He says, marriage among Hindus is no simple matter, right? The parents of the bride and the bridegroom often bring themselves to ruin over it. They waste their substance, they waste their time. Months are taken up over the preparations, in making clothes and ornaments and in preparing budgets for dinners. Each tries to outdo the other in the number and variety of courses to be prepared. So here Gandhi gives a general idea of what a marriage looks like, right? More specifically, what a Hindu marriage looks like. Now, it is, it is not uncommon, right? And it remains true to this day that there are families who will bring themselves to ruin over marriage, right? And when Gandhi talks about this ruin, obviously he is talking about the fact that people go out of their way, right, in preparation for these marriages, right, where months go into preparation for clothes and ornaments, and this continues to this day. And Gandhi is not really supportive of this extravagance, which is clearly extravagance. And to use Gandhi's own words, they waste their substance, they waste their time. So you see his attitude towards such extravagance in marriages, right? So remember, this point too when you think about Gandhi and when you answer questions from this text, right? Not just his views about child marriage, which are abundantly clear according to the previous excerpt that we have seen in the previous slide, but also his views about the extravagance that goes into marriage, and I'm sure that still happens today. So it would be better, thought my elders, to have all this bother over at one and the same time. Less expense and greater éclat. Alright, éclat is a French word, hence the T goes silent. The point is, however, that in the previous slide you had seen Gandhi mentioned that um, three of them were being married off at the same time. His second brother, a cousin, and Gandhi himself. And he had also mentioned that this was done just for the convenience of the family, right? Obviously, economic convenience is a significant part of that convenience, right? Because if three people are married off at once, then the overall expense decreases, and the éclat means obviously it means extravagance, right? It's a French word. The general meaning of the word is extravagance or hoo-ha, as some would say, right? So it would be a spectacle, right? A spectacle, even despite having, having to spend less overall. Uh, this event, this marriage where three of the brothers would be married off at the same time, would cost less money, but the spectacle would be greater. And therefore, there was no question of considering what the children wanted in this case, because obviously, if Gandhi was 13 and his elder brother was maybe 2 years older, still not of, marriable age as far as today's standards are considered, right? So you see, it was done just for convenience. It was only through these preparations that we got warning of the coming event. And Gandhi says we did not even have any idea that we were being married off, because they were not even asked. You see, that is how little, uh, you know, that is how little children, um, obviously, in the context of child marriages, and surely women too, because Gandhi and his brothers are boys, men. Already they have, they are, as far as the social standings are considered, in Gandhi's era, they were far better off than women, because remember, women were not even sent to school, right? There were no schools for women. Gandhi, he has been going to school. If you remember Tagore, who is roughly, contemporary to Gandhi, he too goes to school, and there are instances in Tagore's My Reminiscences which give us hints that there were either no schools for girls, or uh, schools for girls were very less in number or were not really good. So overall, as you can see, girls definitely must have suffered worse. Here you get to know the narrative of a boy, a 13-year-old boy who does not even know that he is being married off, and the only indication he gets is from the preparation in his house, right? So now Gandhi tells what was his understanding of marriage at that time. He says, I do not think it meant to me anything more than the prospect of good clothes to wear, drum beating, marriage processions, rich dinners, and a strange girl to play with. Gandhi says, I really had no idea what was going on. And, by seeing all the preparations around, that is when we started guessing that, okay, maybe someone is going to get married, and maybe one day before the marriage they realized, right? So this is just me hypothesizing. Do not take it literally. Now the point is, they were not told that they were being married off. And as I was saying, I was bringing in the comparison with women, because you know that in the 1880s, right, when women did not have rights to vote, even in countries like the United Kingdom, United States, in most of the Western countries today, which are seen as harbingers of democracy and equal rights, and feminism, most of these countries did not even have the right for women to vote, right? It was much later, and women had to fight men physically even, right, to win suffragette. So those of you who don't know about it, go on and read it. But you might ask, why am I bringing in the situation of women while talking about Gandhi's autobiography. The reason is, despite this text being that of a man, about a man's life, it still gives us hints of what the lives of others were like. And we are not just going to look at the lives of women here. Now, we are bringing in the lives of girls in the context of child marriage, because if boys did not have a choice, if boys were not even informed, then surely um, you can make an informed guess that girls were probably not even asked either, right? So now we are not going to limit our analysis to women. Wherever possible, we are going to see, we are going to take clues from Gandhi and see what his society around was like, right? So that is a practice you should develop as literature students. When you read something, you should also be able to read in between the lines. You should be able to collect hints from what you are reading and apply it to things that surround it, right? Or related things, maybe. So the last two excerpts from this text are as follows. My father put on a brave face in spite of his injuries and took full part in the wedding. So if you read the text, you will know that his father had an accident before it, and he was quite unwell before the wedding, but nonetheless he put up a brave face on the day of the wedding. As I think of it, I can even today call before my mind's eye the places where he sat as he went through the different details of the ceremony. Little did I dream, little did I dream then that one day I should severely criticize my father for having married me as a child. Two innocent children all unwittingly hurled themselves into the ocean of life. Now, let us take a moment's pause. Let us again remember what Gandhi said in his uh, introductory chapter, and more importantly in chapter 1, where he talks about his birth and parentage. Remember, in that chapter he had spoken very highly of his father, right? In chapter 1, he had spoken of how his father was loyal, how his father was an important asset to the state, how his father was known for his fairness, and despite being despite not being very educated, he was still a just man and a really well-known person, right? So we have heard only good things about Gandhi's father until now. In the second chapter, we got to know that Gandhi was blind to the fault of elders, right? Now, if you combine the two factors, would you expect such a person to criticize his elders someday? That is exactly what has happened. Gandhi has grown as a human being, right? And his experiences, his common sense, and the lessons that he has learned in life, right? All of these things combined make him criticize his father for having married him as a child. Because the act of bringing 13-year-old Gandhi and 13-year-old Kasturbai uh, together in marriage was an act of bringing two innocent children unwittingly being hurled into the ocean of life, to use some of Gandhi's words. So the reader, Gandhi says, may be sure that we were too nervous to face each other. We were certainly too shy. We gradually began to know each other and to speak freely together. We were the same age, but I took no time in assuming the authority of a husband. Now, emphasize on the last line. The first three sentences are pretty obvious, that at the age of 13 he was married off to a girl of his age, and they were originally shy and gradually were able to speak freely. But make note especially of the last line, because that is a line which is going to have repercussions in the next chapters. And this is again similar to chapter 1, which, if you remember, segued into chapter 2, right? So this is something that is happening here, and in this lecture itself I'm also going to talk about chapter 4. So so the last sentence goes, I took no time in assuming the authority of a husband. Now, what does he mean by assuming authority of a husband? We will see that in the next chapter. So coming to chapter 4, let's begin with the excerpts, and we are going to encounter incidents where you are going to see the aspect of authority that Gandhi assumes as a husband. And we are going to talk about that at length. So let's start with the first excerpt. About the time of my marriage, little pamphlets costing a pice or a pie used to be issued, in which conjugal love, thrift, child marriages, and other such subjects were discussed. Lifelong faithfulness to the wife, inculcated in these booklets as the duty of the husband, remained permanently imprinted on my heart. Furthermore, the passion for truth was innate in me, and to be false to her was therefore out of the question. Okay, so a 13-year boy has been married off to another 13-year-old girl. We are not going into the girl's perspective yet, right? So everything I have spoken about, the perspective of the woman here is hypothetical. Now, not perhaps not entirely hypothetical, we have made informed guesses based on our knowledge of what the society was then. At that time, when child marriages were common, when in parts of India sati was in practice, where when women could not own property in most of the country, and when women did not even have the opportunity to go to school. So all of these, combined factors help us make informed guesses about what the lives of women must have been like. And soon enough, you will know that Kasturba was also not educated, right? So 13-year-old Gandhi, a young boy who has been married off, now has to play the role of a husband, right? At the age when, by today's standards, children should be playing, he is married off. And now he has to assume the role of a husband. Now, where does he get his ideas about what a husband's role is? He says he comes across these books, right? These little booklets where many matters related to marriage were discussed. What are these aspects that were discussed in these little booklets? These are small books that you still find today, right? You walk around College Street, and not just around College Street. In fact, you are going to find these, book stalls, temporary book stalls in some cases, all around the city. In fact, not just all around the city. You'll find them almost everywhere in the country, right? Now, I have had the fortune, or I don't know, misfortune maybe, to have traveled to several cities in this country, right? I have lived in a few cities, and not just in cities. I have had, the opportunity to live in small towns, etc., etc. So the point, as I was trying to make, is that these booklets were common then, they remain common now. And Gandhi, a 13-year-old boy who has no idea whatsoever as to what the role of a husband is, he gathers this information, these ideas from the books that he was reading at that time. So what are the books that he came across? Books that discussed conjugal love, thrift, child marriage, and similar subjects, right? And what were the ideas that were preached in these books? Lifelong faithfulness to the wife, and similar concepts were, preached in these books, and they were prescribed in these books. And Gandhi says these remained permanently imprinted. So for a 13-year-old boy, you can be sure that whatever he learns is going to leave a lasting impression. And that is exactly what happened. Gandhi did not organically learn to be in a relationship with this strange girl who he has been married off with, right? So his source is these books. But what does it lead to? He says the lesson of faithfulness had also an untoward effect. You have to keep in mind that 13-year-old Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi is, artificially learning how to be a husband, how to play the role of a husband. He has not learned it organically, right? He has not grown into it. He has not segued into it. Try and find out the meaning of words like segue, and this is going to give you a better understanding. Try and find out the meaning of the phrase organically grow into something, right? As compared to artificially learn something. That is exactly what Gandhi was doing. He was using these books because he simply had no other means to know, right? And that is one of the reasons why child marriage is so wrong. And remember, he just criticized his father in the previous excerpt that I read to you. So he said that since my knowledge of marriage was bookish, that is exactly what the bottom line here is. He had no practical understanding or knowledge of marriage. He had a bookish idea of marriage which was formed from these books. And he says one of these ideas that was inculcated through these books was faithfulness, and it had a negative effect as well. It had a backlash of sorts, you may say. So, if I should be pledged to be faithful to my wife, she also should be pledged to be faithful to me, I said to myself. And obviously, a 13-year-old boy does not miraculously think such thoughts, right? Where did he get those thoughts? As he has mentioned before, from those books. Now, the thought made me a jealous husband. Again, just to give you context, this is just a boy who is 13 or 14 years old. Her duty was easily converted into my right to exact faithfulness from her. So you see, a 13-year-old boy, and I am repeating this aspect of him being a 13-year-old to put emphasis on the aspect of child marriage, because this young boy is artificially learning how to live with um, his wife, right? He has no understanding of this girl as another human being. First and foremost, to Gandhi at that time, this girl is his wife. Whether her individuality, her sense of life, her understanding of life has not yet, at least not yet in the text, been taken into account, right? And Gandhi tells, Gandhi's writing gives us clues that at that time he did not even consider that this girl was another human being. He saw her as his wife. And these readings on faithfulness, etc., all the other concepts that he came across through those books, they made him a jealous husband. And he came to be of the opinion that if he was to be faithful, then he had the right to make her faithful too, right? So as such, he is kind of becoming a very authoritative husband. Remember how chapter 3 ended. He said in the last line, if you remember, that I took no time to assert or assume authority as a husband. So ultimately, it's a question of agency or authority, right? So if you can see this in the equation of master slave, right? And Gandhi says that was the dynamic which I was getting into. But does he remain in that dynamic? We are going to find that out soon. So reading these books, he came to be of the opinion that it was his right to exact faithfulness from her, and he had to exact it. And he eventually became a very suspicious person. He says, I should be watchfully tenacious of the right. I had absolutely no reason to suspect my wife's fidelity, but jealousy does not wait for reasons. So you see, the very fact that he, Gandhi, became a jealous husband stems from the fact that he was married off as a child. He had no idea um, what what this girl was like. He had no idea of the conception of his wife as another human being. He did not pay any heed to her thoughts, her thinking, her ways of life, right? And naturally, in fact, overall, he did not try to understand her. Rather, he just thought of the equation or the dynamic between husband and wife, and these books taught him that you should be faithful. From that, he derived the notion that he should exact faithfulness from her, and that made him a jealous and authoritative husband, even though he confesses he had absolutely no reason to suspect his wife's fidelity. Okay, so what else does he do? He says, I must needs be forever on the lookout regarding her movements, and therefore she could not go anywhere without my permission. You see, from how dangerous the aspect of child marriage is, you can see it full at play here. This boy was married off as a child. He did not even know this girl as a human being, as another individual, just thought of her as his wife, learned about these concepts of marriage from some books, and started practicing those concepts in his real life, in his life. And as he started practicing them, he became a very authoritative husband, and to the point that she needed permission even if she had to go anywhere. And what did this do? This sowed the seeds of a bitter quarrel between us. The restraint was virtually a sort of imprisonment, and Kasturbai was not the girl to brook any such thing. She made it a point to go out whenever and wherever she liked. More restraint on my part resulted in more liberty being taken by her and in my getting more and more cross. Refusal to speak to one another thus became the order of the day with us, married children. Very, very important part of the sentence. So, you can imagine two children being married off, absolutely no idea about life, absolutely no idea about one another, no concept whatsoever about marriage, learning from some random books. As for Kasturbai, she doesn't even know how to read, as you will later get to know. And they start fighting over stupid concepts just because one wants to assert authority over the other, right? So you can see those books that Gandhi had read were preaching or prescribing very patriarchal notions. Those were preaching ideas of what an ideal husband should act like and how an ideal wife should behave. Also, what a husband should do if the wife did not behave as she was expected to. So you see a very patriarchal imprisonment, right? A patriarchal perimeter was created because of child marriage and because of these rubbish books, um, inside which Kasturbai and Gandhi lived for quite some time, right? Before they organically developed a proper relationship. So he says, I think it was quite innocent of Kasturbai to have taken those liberties with my restrictions. So looking back, Gandhi says, I'm so glad that she did not, give any heed to my assertion of authority. I'm glad she took her liberty despite me trying to put restrictions on her. How could a guileless girl brook any restraint on going to the temple or on going to visits to friends? If I had the right to impose restrictions on her, had she not any similar right? So you see, finally, Gandhi says that despite having those regressive, patriarchal, authoritative ideas as a child when he was married off, he grew to be a person who respected his wife as another person. That is very important, right? And as he was able to respect her as another person, he realized that if I had the right to impose restrictions on her as another individual, as an equal, she also had the similar right. So the danger with child marriage, as this chapter, these two chapters, it can be deduced that one of the biggest dangers is the fact that the two people don't think of each other as human beings. They start thinking of each other as husband and wife. And once that dynamic is created, the husband tries to, exercise patriarchal notions on the wife. And the wife, being an equal, has the right, of course, to, assert her freedom. And that is exactly what Kasturbai did. And Gandhi later was able to recognize this liberty and acknowledge it. All this is clear to me today, but at that time I had to make good my authority as a husband. So you see, it is with great humility that Gandhi confesses all the wrongdoings he had done, all his wrongdoings towards his wife. So the last excerpt, and we are going to end our lecture on chapters 3 and 4 with this excerpt, is this. I have already said that Kasturbai was illiterate. I was very anxious to teach her. I dared not meet her in the presence of the elders, much less talk to her. Kaithiwad had then, and to a certain extent has even today, its own peculiar, useless and barbarous parda, Circumstances were thus unfavorable. So, in the final excerpt, we get to know a few more facts, a few more clues about contemporary society. So, I have already told you before that you will get to know later about Kasturbai being illiterate. And Gandhi says that he was quite anxious to teach her. He wanted her to, learn as well. He wanted her to be educated too. But society back then, and also at the time when Gandhi was writing, was very regressive. And you already got glimpses of how regressive it was in Gandhi's own behavior from that time. But Gandhi goes on to say that his society back then had this barbarous parda system. He calls the parda system very barbarous. And what is the parda system and how was it practiced back then? You can see its effects when he said that I dared not meet her in the presence of the elders, much less talk to her. So circumstances were thus unfavorable. So the parda system was practiced to such an extent that the young couple here, the husband and wife, they could not even meet and talk to each other in the presence of elders. You see, that is how restrictive society was. And as a result, since they could meet very less, effectively, Gandhi's wish to teach his wife how to read and write turned into a failure. So, overall, these chapters, child marriage and playing the husband, give us several lessons, right? And they tell us a lot of things about contemporary society, about human rights, about feminism, about equity, about gender equality, all of these concepts, and about barbarous practices like the parda system, which was very much in practice in Gandhi's society back at that time. And we also see how badly these regressive attitudes, such as child marriage, such as trying to assert authority over the wife, and stopping husband and wife from meeting each other in the presence of elders, can affect or can have disastrous effects on individuals and on society at large. So with that, we end this lecture on chapters 3 and 4.